Welcome to the Wild About Turkey Hunting podcast, a show for those who love the thrill of that first morning gobble, who love sharing the outdoors with a close friend, and for those who never want to stop learning about this awesome ritual we call spring turkey hunting. I'm Josh Davis, host and creator of the YouTube channel Davis Family Hunts. I'm wild about turkey hunting, and I bet you are too. Thanks for joining. Let's get started. Well, before we start this podcast episode, let me say thanks for your patience in getting this next episode out. There's been a lot of life going on here, it seems, in the month of March. We had a friend of ours from the church pass away and had a pretty big funeral for that. He was a good friend of our family. He also was just a mentor to me, and so that was very time-consuming, just caring for the family and just working through the grief process of that. Also got to have a chance to go down to Florida with my family and got to hunt some Osceolas down there for a couple of days also, and was able to get one particular bird was a nice tom, had a good set of spurs on him and made for a fun hunt. I'll be sharing more about that on our YouTube channel later on, but I thank you for checking in and just being willing to be patient as we jump into turkey season here. So we're going to talk about when life gives you turkeys. You know, most of the time, turkey hunting can be frustrating, spending all morning in the woods and not seeing any birds or hearing little or no gobbling. But there are also moments when it can be a blessing, when you are overwhelmed with the multitude of birds present and sounding off in your hunting area. And when life gives you turkeys, it can be both a hardship and a delight. When options abound, it's still anything but a slam dunk. And so today we're going to talk about what to do on those days when you are gifted with multiple birds and how to choose the right approach so that you can head out of the woods 20 pounds heavier than you went in. I feel like this is a topic that doesn't get talked about too much, and frankly, I think it's because most hunters just hope to actually hear a bird, let alone multiple turkeys. But when you've got multiple birds before you, which one do you choose? To help you make the most of your situation, let's break it down into some different decisions. Let's talk about gobblers at daylight. Tom sounding off at daylight is probably the most assuring way to know that you are blessed with more than one turkey to hunt. Birds are vocal, and on the roost it makes it easy to know where they are, how far away they might be, and in some cases maybe how gullible they are to your calling. So let's say that I've made it to my listening spot and I hear gobblers in 2 or 3 different directions. There may even be a pair or a trio of birds in a few of those directions. Which direction do I go? Well, first I'm going to assess the situation for a few telltale signs of what's going to tip the odds in my favor. First off, I need to consider if the birds are approachable. Just because I can hear them doesn't mean that I can chase after them. If they're across a river or on another property, I'm not going to make calling to them a high priority at this point. Instead, I'm going to take a look at the bird that favors my outcome. First off, I'm going to listen to what else is happening around that roost spot. I want there to be an absence of hen talk, and if it's early in the season when birds are still known to be roosted in some mixed flocks, I'm going to try to pinpoint a gobbler or gobblers who seem to be void of any hens. That means I'm going to try to identify a bird that is roosted further away from the flock. It's likely a subordinate bird, or sometimes referred to as a satellite bird, who's trying to keep his distance from the boss tom, but wants one of his girlfriends. He'll roost 100 yards or so from the others, hoping he can sound off and draw the attention of any hens who want more than their present company. And even on days when I may not hear any hen calling at all, which is pretty common, I know that there are going to be hens around those gobblers. So another context clue I'm going to try to apply when listening to these toms sound off at the roost is to note which bird is roosted higher up. As I consider the terrain, I'm looking for a tom who may be roosted at a higher elevation than his competitors. Why? Because I feel like if he has finished the evening before as a lonely bachelor, he's picked out a spot where he can sound off the next morning and really let his gobbling be heard. As a general rule, I found that a bird that is perched higher than other longbeards in that area is probably alone, and he's the one I'm going to try to get in close to and do my best to work into gun range. But let's say that right at daylight is not when I encounter several birds at once. Let's say that they're all on the ground and I've been faced with a bounty of birds present in my honey hole, and I'm hearing 2 or more toms sound off. You know, my natural inclination is to focus on the bird that is the closest. My gut says go after him, and that's probably right, because the faster I can move in on him and begin calling, the greater my chances will be. The sooner I can get him thinking in my direction, the better. Because remember that the further that I have to trek towards a turkey, the more time that he has to pair up with a hen or to cool off and to go quiet. I need to think about how far I have to go to get to that one bird, maybe over another. And a closer bird doesn't always mean the shortest distance. It can mean that it takes the shortest amount of time to get to him versus another turkey. So consider this: if gobbler A is 300 yards away, but I have to cross a creek and then skirt around an open field, that's going to take some time over gobbler B, who's maybe also 300 yards away, but he's just down a long ridge that's easy to walk. Even if gobbler A, the one that's across the creek and beyond the field, is shouting like he has a death wish, it's usually best to go on the bird that can be worked sooner. You don't want to waste your time and your physical energy hoofing it over to a bird that doesn't even give you a chance when you finally show up in his direction. Now, there's also another time when going after the tom who is closer is not the best choice. And much of this decision is made better when you have a good knowledge of the lay of the land. Knowing where that bird is sounding off from and what the conditions of the habitat around him are like needs to be considered as well. He may be the closer bird, but if he's on the other side of a marsh filled with chest-deep backwater, or he's across from you on an adjacent ridgetop that's thick with mountain laurel, you may want to consider that other bird that's gobbling a quarter mile away. Though that closer turkey sounds hot, if he's in a bad spot to try to call and doesn't give you a good setup, leave him for another day and get ready to pick up the pace as you go after that other tom in the distance. If a gobbler who is located in much easier to hunt ground is available, you should go after him and work him if he's still interested when you get there. That first bird may be closer and seemingly gobbling his head off, but I'll choose to hunt with more favorable conditions. I can still come back and work that bird that's closer another day, and maybe I can catch him on the same side of the water or on the finger ridge that is off of what that thick and nasty stuff was next time. There's a giveaway going on right now, and you're invited to join for free. Just head over to davisfamilyhunts.com and sign up for our newsletter. Once you do that, you'll get a link to enter the giveaway. This is your shot at winning a cool prize package, which includes a really nice personalized box call, perfect for bringing in that next longbeard this spring. Don't wait too long because this chance won't last forever, so make sure you enter today. Again, just go to davisfamilyhunts.com, sign up for our newsletter, use the link to enter the giveaway, and get ready for your chance to win a prize package that can help you succeed in the turkey woods. Now, let's get back to the show. All right, if you've got multiple birds talking, that's a good thing. You know that you have options, but you need to consider who's interested, because it's not a strategy just to throw some yelps out in the air and hope that any bird will come in. There are a few factors to consider on which turkey to hunt. First off, are there any of those birds that are actually gobbling at you? There may be some toms sounding off, but are they answering your calls? This takes extra consideration when turkeys are sounding off from their roost area. Whether they're still in the tree or even already on the ground, you need to take a moment to pay attention to what you hear. The bird to your left may seem closer, but he is actually gobbling in response to the bird that's out in front of you. Or you may hear a gobbler sounding off more in the distance, but he's just in love with his own voice and he's answering every hawk scream and rattling dump truck that goes down the road. So float out a few yelps and then see which one is answering your calls. You might hear multiple gobbles, but every gobble might not be intended for you. If the bird to your left and the bird in the distance have no intention of coming to your call, don't waste your time on them. Head to a bird that wants your company and lets you know it. If he likes the sound of your calling, then you definitely have a chance of getting him in gun range over the others. But let's switch the scenario for a minute. Let's say that you have 2 or 3 gobblers within 200 yards or less, and they're all answering you. Do you just call out in hopes that one of them will get interested enough to come to you? It could work, but not as much as this. Call to one turkey at a time. Think for a moment when you've been experiencing a bunch of turkeys all at once. And it may be a roost situation when you've got a lot of mixed birds, both gobblers and hens, and it could be enough to get your turkey hunting adrenaline going, but it can also get your turkey ADHD going too. Your ears can ping pong back and forth from one talking bird to another, and with so many turkeys sounding off, you may be tempted to just throw out some yelps just to chime in. But let me suggest that you don't. Instead, pick out one bird, probably a gobbler, and talk to him. It's kind of like if you were at a large gathering, a party of some sort, and people are just talking, and you just begin shouting out loud, Don't expect somebody to engage in conversation with you. You need to specifically reach out to a person. So even if other birds are sounding off, you've got other toms booming from their branch and hens chatting in their wake-up routine, focus on having a conversation with one gobbler. That means you only answer when he gobbles. And when he gobbles, you answer him. If he gobbles again, answer him again. If another bird answers you, don't answer that one. If your target bird gobbles again, answer him. You're trying to send an audible message that you're interested in him and in him alone. Now, let me note that I may chime in and be a little more talkative while he's still on the roost if several other birds are doing the same and I'm not within eyesight of him. If there's not much chatter going on, then I may only answer him twice and then just shut up. I've let him know that I want his company. I feel confident by his response that he acknowledges me, and I'll let the rest unfold when he hits the ground. If the turkey talk chaos continues, when most or all of the birds have left the roost and are beginning to shuffle around, I'll again throw my voice into the mix, speaking to one particular bird, not just adding to the loose beak chatter. And oftentimes I found that I can ramp up a gobbler's interest even amongst a crowd of attentive birds just by keeping my calling specific to his gobbling. If he begins to close the distance, I've likely won him over, and I'll keep talking to him so long as he's talking to me. But if you find yourself in the same setup and he goes quiet, don't panic. He may stop gobbling, but that doesn't mean that he isn't coming. That longbeard may switch to drumming, not wanting to draw more attention to that high hen that he thinks he's about to hook up with in secret. If some time passes and he doesn't show up and you don't hear him gobbling further away, he may just be out of sight. Try seducing him those last few yards with some soft purrs or some bubble clucks. And better yet, scratch some leaves to imitate a feeding hen who's still there but just content to wait for his arrival. And that might just be enough to break him to come in the rest of the way. But let's rewind our same scene a little bit and say that things are playing out differently. Let's say you picked out one tom and he's answering you beautifully, and you've called and he answers. He gobbles and you answer, and he in turn gobbles again at your calling, and it seems the two of you have built a conversation connection, but he hasn't arrived yet. Then all of a sudden, as he is working his way towards you, another bird flanks you both from the side ridge, and he starts answering you too. So what do? Who do you call to now? Well, in that case, I'm still going to call to my original target bird for much of the same reasons. Number one, that new gobbler might just beat him into my setup anyway, and if he's a tom, I'll gladly let him wear my tag home instead. Or reason number two, the original tom might not like his new competitor, and he may try to beat him to the hen that he thinks is rightfully his. His jealousy may speed up his arrival, in which I get a shot at my intended bird. Either way, it's nice to have choices when it comes to interested turkeys. But what about those times when you have turkeys and more turkeys? There are moments when you've got to contend with a number of turkeys, and formulating the right conversation can bring a tom into gun range. Saying the wrong thing may send him packing in the other direction. Though there's not a surefire guaranteed tactic, let me offer a few suggestions on how to handle a gobbler who seems to be surrounded by hens. I covered this in more detail in the last episode, but let me take a minute to give you a brief walkthrough of what you can try. During this period, you might attract the interest of one or more hens accompanying him, and if this occurs, she may start responding to you. However, it's important to keep your approach subtle and to keep it gentle. Your communication should be warm and it should be friendly, and as long as she remains polite, you should reciprocate. And it's essential to understand that conversing with hens differs from engaging with a gobbler. You're entering a different dialogue with her. You want to avoid provoking her into thinking that you're a threat to her mate, and she may simply be curious about the newcomer and maybe bring in her companion as well. This is not a moment to escalate your calls or adopt an aggressive stance. Aggressively calling a dominant hen should only be considered when her demeanor warrants it. You should only become assertive if she does. Additionally, it's effective to mirror her calls. However, many hunters mistakenly believe that inciting a dominant hen will lead her to charge in with the tom following closely behind. And while this strategy can be effective, it's often misapplied. If you approach a hen aggressively without any prior interaction, she's likely just to retreat, taking the longbeard with her, thus diminishing your chances. A more effective approach is to start off with a soft and a light tone, and then if that doesn't work, you can get cranky and try to start a chick fight. The same could be said for a gang of gobblers running around together. If a bunch of rowdy boys aren't interested in love, maybe their desire to team up with or to scrap with another fella may bring about their curiosity. You can try grabbing a gobbler's attention with some guide talk. A jake yelp has a different sound and rhythm compared to a gobbler yelp. The gobbler's yelp is lower and it's more drawn out, while the jake's yelp is slower than a hen's, but not as deep as a gobbler's. If you go to our YouTube page, I've got a recording of some jake yelps that you can listen to hear the difference there. The traditional gobbler yelp is actually quite loud. It can be very harsh as it resonates through the woods. It's an effective choice when you want to provoke a gobbler's territorial instincts. And it might not always do the trick, but it's definitely a useful tool to have in your kit. What we say and how we say it often impacts the success of our hunt. In life, the way we choose to speak and when we choose to say something has an impact on others too. Colossians 4:6, which instructs us to let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone, emphasizes the importance of gracious and thoughtful communication, allowing us to effectively share our faith and to build bridges with others. Knowing how to answer everyone is an important aspect of our communication. The Apostle Paul highlights the importance of being prepared to share our faith and respond to questions and concerns with wisdom and grace. So here's some great reminders for all of us when we choose to speak. Be mindful of your words. Before speaking, consider the impact your words will have on others. Seek to build others up. Use your words to encourage and to uplift and to affirm others rather than tearing them down. And be a light in the darkness. Let your speech be a reflection of God's grace and love, drawing others to Him. Instead of gossiping or speaking negatively about others, choose to speak kindly and positively. When faced with difficult conversations, approach them with patience, empathy, and a desire to understand. We should show grace through our words, using them to build bridges, share our faith, and make a positive impact on our world. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I encourage you to explore our YouTube channel, Davis Family Hunts, which covers a wide range of topics, including turkey sounds and adventures that we go on with our kids in the woods. And we'd be thrilled for you to subscribe and to watch more of our content about turkey hunting. It would also be an honor for you to give us a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to this podcast right now. To leave comments, we'd love to hear back from you. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Just look for Davis Family Hunts on either site to stay updated with our activities. You're also welcome to visit our website, davisfamilyhunts.com, and I'll include links in the description for you to check out. Whether it's hunting turkeys or strengthening your bond with Jesus Christ, the more skilled we become, the more we appreciate the experience. And I hope you find joy in your next time spent outdoors. Remember, the pursuit is wild. Never stop learning.